Hi 104. While I'm gone, I wanted you to be able to review some strategies that we've learned so far for adding and subtracting fractions. So today I'm going to run through those strategies with you, showing you through this video how we've learned them so far and giving you a chance to just sort of walk through them with me. When I'm finished, you're going to have some time on laptops to practice adding and subtracting fractions on IXL. And then our substitute will provide you guys with some written practice before you do your Google exit ticket. So my first question for you is, what strategies have we learned so far for adding and subtracting fractions? Go ahead and take about 30 seconds just to sort of think to yourself, what strategies do you know? Alright, so if you said or thought clock fractions, least common denominator, or the butterfly method, then you're on the right track. The first strategy that I want to go over is clock fractions. We talked about how the clock in our classroom can be broken into different pieces, and some of those pieces include fourths and sixths. So the two fractions I have here for you are 2/6 and 1/4. Remember that you can look in your notebook to see how we broke those clocks up as a reference, and you can also look at the clock in our classroom. So the first fraction that I'm going to go ahead and show on the clock is 2/6. And if you remember, we don't have to start with the first fraction. We can start with whatever fraction we are most comfortable with. I'm going to go ahead and start with 2/6. I know that the clock has 12 numbers. And if I break it into 6 pieces, it's going to leave me with 2 slices in each section. So if I need 2 of those, 1/6 would stop here. 2/6 would bring me to the 4 on our clock. So 2/6 is the same thing as 4/12, which some of you right now are probably also thinking is the same thing as 1/3. As always, you want to make sure that you label the clock. And then wherever we stopped is where we're going to go ahead and start with our next fraction. So I'm going to switch colors to show 1/4. If you look up at the clock in our room, you'll see that 1/4 is marked at the number 3, because if I divide 12 by 4 for 4 pieces, my answer is 3. So I'm going to start where I left off and move 3 numbers, 1, 2, 3, which leaves me with 7/12. Make sure again that you label your pieces. And then I didn't leave myself much room, but we know just from our work that this equals 7/12. So there's our first strategy. Strategy number 2 was least common denominator, and this was a strategy that we sort of previewed when we were comparing fractions. We talked about factors and multiples and skip counting. So the first thing we need to do is figure out what numbers 8 and 5 have in common when we skip count or find their multiples. So let's start with 8. And you can skip count with me if you'd like. So 8, 16, it's not easy writing with a mouse, 24, 32, 40, and I'm going to go ahead and do 48. Now right now you may be noticing there's a number off the top of your head that when you skip count by 5 you'll say that matches up with a number for 8, but I'm going to go ahead and skip count anyway. 5, 10, 15, 20. You should be noticing right away that each of these numbers ends in either a 5 or a 0. So if I continue that pattern eventually, I'm going to say 40. I'm going to go ahead and jump to 40, which is our least common multiple and will become our new denominator. So the next thing you need to do is take your fractions out of the problem and create equivalent fractions. So 1/8 now will become a fraction with a denominator of 40. How do we get from 8 to 40? Well, we skip counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. So 8 times 5 gave us 40. Whatever I do to the denominator, I do to the numerator. So what's 1 times 5? 5/40. So there's our first number. Next step is to take the 3/5 and we're going to do the same thing, set it up with a new denominator of 40. And how many times would I skip count by 5 to get to 40? Now I jumped ahead, but if we take a look here, if 8 times 5 is 40, then 5 times 8 should also be 40. Whatever I do to my denominator, I do to my numerator. So 3 times 8 is 24. Since I don't have much room, I'm going to go ahead and rewrite this problem. 5/40 plus 24/40, and that's kind of messy, but that's okay, equals, now remember, our numerator, which is now the same, our denominator, which is now the same, will stay 40. And when we add 5 plus 24, we get 29, which is our answer. So there's strategy number 2. And for now, we're going to end with our third strategy, which is the butterfly method. This one is a lot like cross multiply when we were comparing fractions, except we have to add a few more steps. So if you remember, you want to make sure you give yourself enough space and write your fractions big enough to have room to work with your addition and multiplication. Excuse me. We're going to go ahead and loop our numbers together, just like we're cross multiplying. And remember that we multiply up. So 5 times 1 gives me 5. 3 times 3 gives me 9. And when we create our new fraction, we have 2 steps. First, we're going to add together the numbers that we found for products at the top. So 9 plus 5 equals 14. And then we add in our new step, which involves you taking these 2 bottom numbers and multiplying them together. So 5 times 3 equals 15. If you want to, you can make this look really pretty, like a little butterfly. Totally up to you. But this is our answer. Alright, that's it for me here. What you're going to do now is on your laptops, go to Blend Space block number 4, practice adding and subtracting, and then when you finish 10 problems, our substitute will give you your practice pages so that you can complete them and go on and do your exit ticket. Have fun, make sure you're on your best behavior, and I'll see you soon.